excited to talk to you again.
I know, this is gonna be lovely. How are my levels? I just adjusted my input.
Sounds really good to me.
Okay, fabulous.
How's mine?
Marcia, you sound glorious. Celeste
As
and Riv, I
always.
have not heard either of you yet.
Hello. This is my input.
Your input is perfect.
Oh,
We love
wonderful,
that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Fabulous,
love it.
glorious. I love it. Perfection.
I love your
I love
setup
it.
there with the. I love it. With the Japanese in the background and
Oh my god. I am gonna be completely honest with you. Thank you, but I have no fucking idea what that means.
no idea
No.
either.
I
Actually,
got
it looks more
it-
Chinese to me.
Who knows? I mean, look, I got it like 11 years ago at this thrift store that was going out of business, near where I went to high school, and I put it up, and it's been there ever since. So I never
that.
think about it.
It
It
looks
could
good.
be worse. It could be a
Looks
tattoo on
cool.
your body and you not know what it means.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that would be a
Yeah.
lot worse, a whole lot worse. I like is that an Epiphone or a Gibson on your wall there, Riv?
That is a River special.
Oh, it's
I
a
built that
River
guitar.
Special. No shit.
Yeah, I used to build electric guitars when I was in
Cool.
high school and college, and that is my favorite one I built. So
Oh my goodness, I
she's
love
a
it.
beaut.
Tell me about it a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So obviously Les Paul design,
Mhm.
custom hardware.
Mhm.
Humbucker is, all
Glorious.
the wiring is going to be the same as a Les Paul.
Sure.
But I really love to play around with the dark mahogany with like a cherry stain on it. And I didn't build the neck because the
Cool.
necks are way too
They're hard.
require a lot of equipment to make
Yes,
properly.
yes.
So I definitely bought that off eBay
Okay.
and then bolted it on.
Okay.
And then had to keep rerouting the cavity for the for the neck constantly until I got it just right.
Okay.
So don't look at the back because there's some wood putty on
There's
the
a
back
bunch
of it.
I can imagine.
Yeah, don't worry.
A lot of
front looks
shims and shit
beautiful,
in
though,
there.
so yeah, exactly.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, every time I see a Les Paul, I get really interested because that's like one design I do not have. I've got a telly right here, but that's about
Ooh.
as electric as I get usually.
So what
Guitars
can
do
you
you
tell
have?
me? Yeah, tell me what guitars you have. I'm really curious
Oh
now.
my god. Okay, I've got shit. I've got probably 20 of them here. That's my telly. I've got a Rickenbacker 360 that I'm using very, very often these days. I've got this silver tone. Actually, do you mind if I get it? I really want to show it off.
Please do.
It's got a
please
big
do.
speed. Okay,
I'm
hang on one
gonna
second.
fangirl so hard.
Please,
Okay.
I know you'd
Quality
be interested
podcast.
in this.
Yes. Quality podcast. Welcome to Transpotting.
Wow, that's a beautiful guitar. Welcome to Transpotting.
Is that
The
a
guitar
in your
that
pocket?
no one can see.
Subscribe to our Patreon and get early access and watch our.
Ooh,
live
I
stream
didn't
recording
set that
sessions.
up yet.
Yeah.
I gotta do that.
I'm not too concerned about setting it up yet because I don't know
Yeah.
if it will actually. We might have 2 or 3 people that are like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to, but I'm not expecting too much more than that.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see.
I got a new job this week.
Oh,
You
shit.
tell
Last
me
week.
all about your new job.
Yes.
I got a new job as a
Okay.
legal assistant. Oh, hi, Robin, you're back.
Ooh.
I'm so
Oh, hi,
sorry.
Robin, you're back.
Hello, I am. So this
Hello.
is a Silvertone Telecaster.
That's gorgeous.
It is not a Fender, but it is my baby. It's got a Bigsby on it. It's like a real Frankenstein guitar. There's like Silvertone body, and I think a Silvertone neck as well. But it's obviously based on a Telly, and it's got Gretsch Feltertrons in it.
Ooh.
I know some of these words.
I know none of them, but that's okay.
I will soak up the glory because I am very impressed.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very impressed.
Oh yeah, same. I'm
I
very
just wish I
impressed.
knew
I
more
just don't
about
know
it
what
so I
it
could
is.
be more
That's
impressed.
fair.
It's guitar shit.
Guitar shit.
Guitar shit.
Guitar nerds.
It makes
you know.
it makes noises. Yeah, it makes noises when you plug it into the right amp.
But only if you
Okay.
do it right.
How long do you have today to talk to us?
I've got probably about we can go for an hour and 22 minutes.
Okay, that's usually pretty close to where we go to.
Cool.
So that'll be perfect.
Cool.
In that case, I think we should get started and we can do our little intro bits.
Okie
Then
dokie.
we can jump right into talking and conversation and see where the wind carries us.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'll start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Transpotting. My name is Marcia.
And I'm Celeste.
And I'm Riv.
We're really excited today because we have one of our most special, excited, and anticipated guests today. We have Robin today, and you may know her from such wonderful tunes as the one that you literally just heard.
It's
Shadows
true.
in the Sun by Robin Shakedown is our theme song. And so today we're talking to the person who put that all together and getting to know
Hey.
her and her stuff. So hi, Robin. You want to say hi to everybody
Hi,
and
yes.
introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Robin. I am indeed the musician who did the Shadows and Sun theme song, and I'm very excited to be on this podcast. I'm from Atlanta, and I play a bunch of guitars.
All at the same time.
Like,
All at the
12.
same time.
All at the
That's
same
actually
time.
my special skill. They're all in this like big harness that I wear that can carry about 7 guitars. Depending on if I'm wearing heels or not, I can take it up to 8. And then
I'm imagining it looks like a harp, and you just.
Yeah. It's very desperado of you.
It's they're all horizontally mounted, and I just like you can't see this if you're listening to the podcast, but the top one's like way up here. I'm holding my arms up above my head, and I can't really look up at it, so I kind of have to do this one by feeling, and then you just move down to each guitar. It's really the
like
only
Jimmy
way to play
Page's
guitar.
double-necked guitar, but just
Yeah,
like a
but this one's
skyscraper of those.
Right.
Yeah.
This
There you
one's
go.
8 guitars, or 16 if I use double necks. Up to 16.
I'm getting a very like Claudio Sanchez, Coheed and Cambria guitar feel from this.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Only a couple of them are pointy enough to play Coheed and Cambria.
Okay.
The rest are all going to be
You have to have pointy guitars to play
You
Coheed?
do. If you're going to play any kind of metal music, it only works with a really pointy guitar.
That's why those Flying V designs are so popular.
It's true. There's
Very
a
pointy on the end.
Yes, exactly. Riv just held
That's
up
my 7-string.
Yeah, and the more strings you have, actually, the more metal you can get. So if you're playing like really, really drop metal music, you can get up into like 12, 13, 14 strings sometimes. And I don't just
12
mean like a
strings.
12-string guitar. I mean like, 12 individually. This is bullshit. I'm sorry.
Our whole podcast is kind of bullshit, so like, let it fly.
Oh, I will let the bullshit fly.
How long have you been playing music then? Has it been your
Music,
whole life?
yeah, it has. It really has. Well, I've been like taking piano lessons at least. Like my mom, I was one of those kids who their mom like puts them in piano lessons, and I didn't really get much from it, to be honest. I think I played one piano recital. This is where I learned what the word recital meant. Was at this piano recital, and I played "This Land Is Your Land," never playing more than 2 notes at the same time. I thought like the mark of a really good piano player was that you could play like 2 to 3 notes at once and like start forming chords. And little did I know that like that's just like that's how you start playing piano is you play multiple notes at once. So I didn't really get a lot from piano lessons, but then I did like chorus and choirs and stuff. I was in church, and oh my God, in 5th grade, I was in the DeKalb County Honor Chorus down here in Atlanta. And like for like grade school kids. And I learned to harmonize by singing. I learned to like pick out harmonies while singing. And then I picked up guitar in 7th grade. And so I've been singing and playing guitar for that long, approximately. And then writing music since college. And then playing professionally for the last 10 years or so.
When you started writing music, what was the impetus for that?
Sitting alone in my dorm room and thinking to myself, I really wish I could be one of those people who sits alone in their dorm rooms and writes music. Because like there's just something so ridiculously cool about that kind of aesthetic. I'm very aesthetic driven, or at least I was in college.
I love that.
And
Same.
right. So I feel like sitting alone in my dorm room and just kind of like thinking like, what would the person who I want to be doing right now? And the answer to that question was usually writing at that point it was like blues music and like kind of slower rock and roll music. And just like writing about things that I thought were deep, which was usually girls. And like, you know, how
Hashtag relatable.
right? And how unfair life was as a straight white guy. And so I did that a lot. And I went to like bars as an underage person who couldn't drink and like would just kind of hang out and soak in the atmosphere and be like, you know what, I really like this kind of singer-songwriter atmosphere that I'm sitting in right now. And that just kind of grew and grew and grew, and eventually I joined some bands and started playing some solo shows and doing open mics, and never really knew when to stop. So that just kept on going for years and years and years. And now I've been in like 1,000 different bands, and I've written, like, if I were to actually count, 5 or 6 different albums under different names and identities, and put them out on different platforms, and just enjoyed every second of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, I have
Thank
a quick question.
By
And
all
it's something
means.
that I saw on your Instagram when you were talking about how several years ago there was somebody who was telling you that you'd never be able to lay down female vocal tracks without help. Can you
Yes.
tell me more about that?
Oh my god. Okay. This was very, very early in my transition. Before I was out to anybody.
Oh, quick
I
question. How long have you
Yes.
been transitioning for? When
Oh,
did you start?
actually, yeah. So I started I came out to myself probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And then I started hormones exactly 2.5 years ago.
So pretty
So
recent still.
I guess so.
Wait, is
If-
today your
Yesterday was 2.5 years.
yesterday?
Oh my
Yesterday,
god!
yeah, it was 2.5.
Oh my
So like
God.
if you go by the timeline that like
Congrats.
you know, I'm holding up air quotes here, but if you go by the timeline that you're fully transitioned after 5 years, I'm halfway done.
You're halfway there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
Exactly
have
halfway
very
done.
similar timelines, so that makes me very happy.
Cool. I love that.
Yes.
Congratulations to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
What was the question?
About
Can't
your
remember what the question was.
the voice.
Oh, yes. Okay. So this was very early in the transition. When I was writing my first music kind of under the name Robin. My project name is Robin Shakedown. And that's now my band name. It started out as being my Instagram name because I was listening to a song that started with the word shakedown when I created the Instagram account. So it was just Robin, my name, dot the first word that I heard, which was shakedown. I was recording with a guy down here in Atlanta who I went to college with. And I was not out to him or anything. And I told him that I wanted some female vocals on this music, on some of these songs, one in particular. And he said that we'll be able to get, we'll get some female vocalists in here. And I like jokingly said, oh, what, you mean I can't do it myself? And then he said, no, one thing I've learned is that if you want a female vocal, you have to get a female vocalist. You can't fake it. And so like that just like stuck with me like really, really hardcore. Like I wanted something about that just like rubbed me the wrong way. Like I really, really wanted to put a female vocal on my song. Which probably drove my coming out a little bit. It like drove my desire to transition at that point. And so I like worked on it, and I took voice lessons, and I took speaking lessons, and I went to a lot of therapy, and I did a lot of practice. And you know, I feel pretty confident in my ability to convey a female vocal now in my music.
Absolutely. I mean, I show off your songs to my friends. So.
Oh shit. Well, thank you. I
Honestly,
appreciate
same.
that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. And I remember when I first released that project that the first 2 EPs that I did under Robin Shakedown were called Bullet Baby and Cartoon Eyes. And I don't really push them too much. And it's because it's a dude singing it. Like it just sounds like a guy in my mind. Like, you know, I hadn't gone through a lot of training at that point. And it always felt difficult to take myself seriously as a trans girl musician if I couldn't sound like a not stereotypical, but if I couldn't sound like an archetypical girl while singing.
Totally.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What were some of your exercises, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I read Rainn Wilson's autobiography, The Bassoon King, out loud over Zoom to my voice coach over the course of like 6 months. Because I needed something to read. I needed like some kind of material. There's the heat from fire from heat thing from Trans Voice Lessons YouTube, and then there's the Rainbow Passage, which is often used as, if y'all are familiar with the Rainbow Passage at all, it's a passage that is used to kind of in speech therapy and speech pathology. It's used a lot because I think it demonstrates a lot of the phonemes that are used often in English. It's I can't remember how it starts off the top of my head, but it's a description of what rainbows are and what they've been used for in history, and like what different cultures would use them for. But you essentially, the idea is you read this passage and it's supposed to be a demonstration of all the different sounds that you can make in English. It's a couple of paragraphs long, but I would do that until it became kind of repetitive, and then I needed a different piece of material to use. And so I used Rainn Wilson's autobiography because it was what I had in my car right there. I would do my voice training in my car alone, because that's where you fucking do it. You don't do it in front of anybody because it's embarrassing as hell.
So embarrassing.
It is. Oh
It
my
is.
god, it's
Oh,
the worst.
It's the worst.
Oh my god.
It really is. And there's a lot of shit to get over there psychologically. But once you get over that, it becomes a lot easier to take yourself seriously. But in the meantime, I was alone in my car on Zoom talking to my voice coach. Her name was Kira, and she works with the Voice Lab in Chicago. And I'm forever grateful to her because she gave me a judgment-free environment to practice speaking in. So I read Rainn Wilson's autobiography, and I would sing a lot. I'm really into Tom Petty, and I've always been really into Tom Petty.
Love that.
And so I would sing along to SiriusXM channel 31, the Tom Petty radio channel, in my car, just because I know those songs inside and out. And I would add this female harmony, this higher harmony, or this lower harmony sometimes, to his vocals, just for hours and hours and hours on road trips or driving to and from work. And I would just do that. It was easy with music that I know. It's a lot easier with music that you know inside and out, forward and back, because you don't have to think about it. You can just pick those harmonies and add them and listen to yourself and record yourself. Those were the two biggest things that I did. Rainn Wilson and Tom Petty played integral parts in my transition.
It's lovely.
I love that.
You heard it here first, trans femmes. If you want to feminize your voice, read
Yeah.
Rainn Wilson's autobiography.
Rainn Wilson's autobiography, The
Every
Bassoon
day.
King,
Every
will do
day.
it for you. But it takes persistence. A lot of persistence. You just got to keep at it. And it will not be easy at first. And it will not sound good at first. And if you can get over that, if you can give yourself a little bit of grace, you'll get through that. There's a finite amount of practice that you have to go through. But once you've been through that finite amount of practice, things get better. And then the other thing I did was I got a customer service job. I got a job facing customers, and it kind of turned into a game of how many times a day can you get ma'amed versus sirred. And once you're doing that, it's the losses become less devastating, and the wins become more and more numerous. And once the losses stop being devastating, it becomes a lot easier to practice your voice. But those losses are devastating at first.
Well, I'm excited because I just started a customer service position.
Hell yes! What are you
starting next
doing?
week. I'm going to be a legal
Congratulations.
assistant at a law firm.
No shit.
Yeah.
So what does that consist of?
So I think it's mainly like secretary work. So like
Okay.
talking to the customers and like scheduling things and making sure that stuff is working out.
Okay.
So customer facing position, but then also a lot of organizing and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Which I'm excited because I'll finally have a full-time job again.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it full time?
Mhm.
Do you have insurance and everything through it?
No, but I have insurance through something else, hopefully. So
Cool.
yeah,
Insurance is another one of those bitches.
I know. Because it's too expensive.
The American dream, baby.
The American dream.
You work 40 hours a week and you get hardly anything in return.
I know. It's
Oh,
frustrating.
don't make me get on a soapbox. I will do it.
Oh,
We haven't
I don't
had a
doubt it.
soapbox yet
The other
today.
two
Get on your
haven't.
soapbox.
We
Rick.
have.
Yeah, I haven't had a good soapbox in a long
Oh
time.
no, you don't want that one.
Well, we want to encourage you as much as we can.
Do a different soapbox then.
Right.
Yes.
We just need to have one soapbox every episode.
Yeah.
I think it was actually on your podcast that y'all were talking about where the term soapbox came from. I can't remember if this was maybe a couple of weeks ago. Somebody was on a soapbox. Riv, I think it was you actually.
It's always Riv.
It's always
It usually
me.
is.
It's
yeah.
usually me. Yeah.
And yeah, it came from people needed to, it's the same as soap opera actually. The soap companies needed vehicles through which to sell their product, through which to sell their soap, and so they created these soap operas as forms of advertising. There would be these little dramas, and in between the plot points of the drama they would sell soap.
I've heard that.
I learned that
actually.
recently.
Mm-hmm.
And soap used to come in these boxes. And people would stand on them to yell at people.
I guess it does. I always found it weird that soap comes in cardboard boxes. Like nowadays, like you go to the
Yeah.
store and you get a soap because, like, I don't know. I feel like soap should come in something that's a little bit more self-contained. If you get a cardboard box wet, and by the way, you only use soap in wet places. I mean, you're not ever going to not use it in a wet place.
Not
the cardboard...
discouraging or kink shaming anyone here.
And
though.
no.
Just to be
when,
clear.
when you use soap for its cleaning purposes, I mean,
There you go.
yeah. The cardboard gets all shitty and like soapy, and you have to throw it away, and then you have to go get a soap dish. I feel like there should be like a self-contained soap dish that comes with soap. I was never one for bar soap.
Isn't it usually like a waxed cardboard though? So like it's a little bit more water resistant.
You might be right about that. I've never had a good experience though with soap packaging.
I don't really
And-
buy bar soap anymore,
Yeah.
so
Me
I don't
neither.
really think about it.
Me
I
neither.
like to go to my local farmer's market and get the little circle
Yes.
soaps that they make out of their scraps.
Oh,
Aw,
I've never seen
that's really
those.
cute.
Yeah.
Those
'cause
sound
there's like a
adorable.
lot of like artisanal handmade soap around here.
Cool.
And so they'll do like their fancy bars, and those will sell for like $7 or $8.
Okay.
But if you just get the scraps that they collect and put into a ball, those are like $3 or $4.
No
And they
shit.
smell amazing. And it's just the same thing. It's just not in a fancy bar.
It reminds
Interesting.
me a lot of smoked salmon.
How so?
You get the smoked salmon scraps from the grocery store.
Oh yes.
Instead of like, the ones I'm talking about, like the smoked salmon pieces that weren't good enough to
Yeah.
make the final cut of like the
Yeah.
big salmon fillet. You get those really,
Pun
really
intended.
good.
Yeah,
Yes.
picture this.
Really?
I don't know if I
I
knew
literally
this.
ate some right before I came on the show. Actually,
Those smoked salmon pieces, those
Yeah.
odds and ends.
got
Yeah.
them from Trader Joe's. They're just
Uh-huh.
little pieces.
Mhm.
They
I
were
was-
still yummy as hell.
They
I was
really
literally
are.
at Trader Joe's earlier today. Like I don't know if I've ever seen these before.
Hold on, Marcia. Were you at Trader Joe's
change your
recently
life.
too?
No, y'all live in a bougie place. My closest Trader
Okay.
Joe's is like an hour and a half away.
You're
have
the
Trader
only one of
Joe's
us
in
who
Idaho.
hasn't been to Trader Joe's today.
Mine's like 8 minutes away.
Dang. I guess we are bougie.
Yeah.
Marcia,
Yeah.
I know you live in Idaho, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Where
I
do
live,
you-
I live in I don't know if I'm comfortable sharing this with the whole
that's-
internet at
yeah, you
large,
don't
so
have
we
to.
can edit this out later. But I
Sure.
live in Moscow, Pullman, which is like two university towns. One is in Washington and one's in Idaho.
Oh,
And
cool.
so, like literally, Washington is like 10 minutes away from me.
That's neat. Are you right
So
on
I-
the time zone border?
No, the time zone, northern Idaho is actually Pacific time. Southern
Oh,
Idaho is
weird.
Mountain time, which is kind of weird.
That's nuts. That blows my mind.
It's kind of strange. But
That's very strange.
with the new job that I get, I'm looking into getting a place in Washington, and if I can do that, I can get healthcare over there.
Mm.
which
Oh,
would be really
cool.
nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You'll be in Western Washington.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Eastern Washington.
Eastern. Yes, that's what I meant. I
Huh.
get those mixed up every time too.
My brother and my sister-in-law are moving to Eastern Washington in just a little bit. Spokane.
Spokane.
Yeah.
I was just up there yesterday.
Whoa,
Family
doing
up there.
what?
That's amazing.
Whoa.
So we had
Small
a
world.
queer art walk in Spokane as part of Pride.
Oh,
One
cool.
of my friends was curating an exhibit, and another friend was in the exhibit. So we went up there and just kind of hung out all evening, and it was really fun.
Neat.
Just a bunch of
I've
queers.
heard that Spokane is more on, like, despite Washington being a relatively liberal state, I've heard that Spokane is more on the conservative side. Is there any truth to
It
that?
is, which is also why the queer community there is kind of tighter.
Okay.
Because when you're in like a more conservative place, you tend to cling to the people who you can trust more.
That makes sense. So you have a tighter knit queer community. Queer
Which,
community,
and
as it
honestly,
were.
we have people like traveling all over. Like we had people traveling from Arkansas and like the East Coast over here for this art
Whoa.
walk and stuff.
That's
And so,
cool.
but like talking to them, and they're like, and other people who have lived here and then moved away, and other people who've lived in other places and then moved here, and they're like, I think this is the best queer community I've ever been a part of.
No shit, in Spokane.
In like Spokane and then like this area of the Palouse where I
Whoa.
live. And
I mean, you've got Gaseball, so
we've got
right
Gaseball.
there.
We've
Got
got gay
Gaseball.
Right
baseball.
there.
It's
Mm-hmm.
lovely.
Gay
And I
baseball.
think there's just something really like lovely about this kind of rural queer community
Mm-hmm.
because there's like no
Rural queer
posturing.
stick together.
Yeah, there's like, come as you are. There's no posturing. There's no like trying to impress each other. It's just like we're here to support each other. We're queer. We're all weird freaks, and we love each other no matter what, kind of thing.
That's lovely. It sounds like a really genuine brand of queerness as opposed to the
Yes.
queer aesthetic that a lot
Yeah,
of city
exactly.
folks seem to cling to. That rainbow pride thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which that's fine too, but it's also kind of like now that I kind of know how lovely this is, it's hard for me to
Mhm.
want to leave too.
Completely understandable.
That makes sense.
Completely understandable.
It's just because of the people. I'll probably have to leave someday, but I'm not looking forward to that.
Right. Right. No,
If
I'm
you're
It's
ever in my area of the woods in Washington, come say hi. Or I'll meet you somewhere. We'll come say hi together.
Riv, what part of Washington are you in?
Well, I will cut it out of the
Yeah,
show,
please.
but I live in Olympia.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's we literally had over the weekend before the weekend we actually had in the downtown Olympia area we had a trans crosswalk painted, and so
Cool.
far, to my knowledge, it hasn't been destroyed.
Oh,
So far.
hell yes.
But yeah, it's a
Sucks
very,
when
it's a very
that's the-
queer town, a very trans town, which is great.
Whoa.
I mean, that I'm told of, I haven't really found queer places to hang out.
Okay, in Olympia.
But also, I'm very autistic and don't want to meet new people
Yeah.
usually in person.
Completely relatable. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. The social exertion that takes is mind-boggling. And to people who thrive on that kind of shit, I have no idea how they do it. The violinist,
I think it's innate
it's innate. Like
Yeah.
you're born with it.
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
that way.
Really?
That's part of the
Are
reason that I
you?
started this podcast is just because I love talking to people, and the more chances that I get to do it, the better.
Marcia,
Yeah.
look at you, little
too,
social
Robin.
butterfly. I
Yeah,
love
Marcia's our social butterfly. Riv and I
it.
hate people.
Hate
so.
people.
I would say Celeste and I are the social media butterflies.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
yes,
true.
yes,
Okay. Yeah,
'Cause I don't
know.
post on
I'm
social media near as much as you two. I am actually talking with people.
yes. Well, that's way too much
but-
energy.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. If there's no social media digital footprint, did it actually happen? That's what I often ask myself. When I go out and like meet people like in bars, I often think this isn't real because this isn't happening on Instagram.
So, like, admittedly, I was previously in like rural East Tennessee, and
Mhm.
like you talk about your rural pride. This was so not queer that there wasn't even a tight knit queer community. So
Jesus.
yeah,
There was a lot of
So-
Jesus though.
there was a lot of Jesus.
A lot of Jesus. So you were in East Tennessee. You were in
I-
East Tennessee.
Yeah, I
What
was
what
there.
part were you in? Were you like near Chattanooga?
I was no. I was 30 minutes east of Knoxville.
Okay.
East
Oh,
of-
so East Tennessee.
East. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually not too far from me.
What's the community
Yeah.
like in Atlanta?
It's fine. It's,
It's
there's like
Atlanta.
it's Atlanta.
It's
Like there's all right, it's gay as hell. There's a but yeah, no, it's wonderful in that regard. But like it's a lot of posturing. It's a lot of rainbow capitalism. I live in Midtown, which is the gayest part of the gayest city in the South. And it's full of rainbows, but people don't really remember or understand what any of it actually means. Um, they don't pay attention to the danger inherent with being queer, much less with being trans, much less with being out and trans. Um, and in that way, it's very, very lonely a lot of times. There is a small community of trans women here who kind of met somewhat recently at a series of trans women picnics that we started down here.
That's a lovely idea.
Yes, they do them in a lot of different cities. I went to my first one in Oakland, California last summer. And the girl who I went with, Mia Byrne, who is now, by the way, a wonderful country artist, like one of the first out trans country artists in the world. Give her a listen, Mia Byrne. Um, she encouraged me and a couple of my friends down here to start a trans woman's picnic. Just a kind of come as you are, but keep it strictly limited as much as you can to trans femmes, to trans women. Because there is a lot of bullshit that we have to put up with, and we don't have those safe, dedicated spaces for trans women that exist in a lot of other places, like in New York City. So we tried to kind of create that, and what I found comes from that is a lot of cliquishness, a lot of kind of infighting. And I think that's just inherent with being a trans girl in general, especially a newly minted trans girl. There is a lot of cliquishness. There's a lot of that kind of like middle school drama that we never got to experience for ourselves. Kind of makes itself, kind of rears its head for the first couple of months or the first couple of years. And it's hard to, I've experienced a
Sounds
lot
like it
of
would be
that.
really hard.
Yeah, and I see it on Instagram too. I see it pretty much everywhere there's a trans femme community. Um but after and this is actually something I'd love to talk about. Do y'all ever find that after a few years you either become a very visible, outspoken trans icon, or you vanish into obscurity and you just kind of stop existing publicly anymore?
Yes.
What is
100% yes.
like, I understand why, I think, because it is so exhausting to be out and trans. It is so exhausting to be constantly under that external microscope and under that scrutiny. And like, what can we do about that? I guess is where I'm getting here. Like, is there any way to sustainably have a trans woman community? How do we do that? How do we continue having that?
I'd like to plug our Discord really quick.
Please,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
We have a cute community on there. That's true.
We do have
Yes.
I would say it's majority trans femme, but all are welcome.
hmm
Yeah.
And
I
how
think
do we get to this Discord if we want to join it?
there will be a link
Episode
in
description.
the episode description. Thank you,
Oh,
Marcy.
freaking lovely.
Um, I think that's a really good question. I've noticed that too. You kind of have two branches of people. Well, there might be more than two because there's people who pass really well and decide to just go stealth and not let anybody know that they are trans. And after a certain amount of time, The only people who might know they're trans are their very, very closest friends, and nobody else would know it. There's also people who have problems with passing and so are never able to go stealth even if they want to. And they tend to stand out more and face different kinds of challenges than other people. And then there's those who could go stealth but choose not to, because to them it's more important to be able to take a stand and let people who might not be as privileged as they are have a fighting chance and stand up for those people. So then the question is like,
Seems like what's the right path to take? What's the most noble path to take? What
and I think that's
I
going to
think
be a
it
different
it
answer for each
depends.
person.
Everybody's got their own answer to that. I mean, it's such an interesting dichotomy of how that splits, because there's a certain amount of like you need to take care of yourself, and like obviously there's a want to be safe and feel safe wherever you're at. And I also think that just depends on where you're living. I live in an ultra queer, ultra like I leave my house and go to the grocery store, it's like a 95% chance I'm going to see another trans person, like that's visibly trans, and like
Mhm.
they seem okay with that. And that's cool. That's where I'm at, is a safe place to do that. But
Mhm.
most places aren't.
Yeah.
And so there's that drive to, safety, but then there's also that I know for myself, I try my best to be the person that I would have needed when I was like a teenager, and then even getting into early college and all that kind of stuff, the kind of person that I would have wanted to see out.
Yeah.
So I think I pass fairly well at this point. I'm like a year and 8 months into this.
Yeah.
And that's not always my goal. Like, I don't know. I like the ability to appear trans sometimes. Like at work, on my name badge, which we used to like scan to get in and out, I
Mhm.
have a trans flag pinned to it. And so like I go to the bathrooms at work and there's a trans flag hanging around my neck. And like for me, it's really important to be visible like
Literally
that.
as visible as you can get. That's like just
Yes.
short of draping yourself in a trans
Yes.
flag.
It's like the
It
bat signal,
was
but for trans.
it was
Right.
really important to me that
Right.
like I get to be visible, and if that's a problem for you, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
also, it allows people to be like, oh, I do know a trans person, and have a little bit of
Yes.
Right.
human face and empathy to that.
Yes. And
Yes.
that's something that the general public, the cis normies, if you will, so like desperately lack. Like there is the only representation a lot of them are exposed to is late 90s, early 2000s Adam Sandler movies. And that is
Oh
not the
God.
best. That is like
Yeah, it's the
probably
worst.
it is literally the worst portrayal of this community as a whole, like if cis people who were otherwise unaware of trans people would realize that every single day, if they're going out into public and if they're in a relatively populated place, they're going to interact with at least a few trans people every single day and not even know it.
I
Mhm.
was going
And
to say, even here, so I was a long time ago a guest on a podcast called Queer Nundrum. Shout out Gary and Holly, my friends.
yeah.
And they're both cis, but they're both queer. And
Mhm.
they were telling me that I was the first trans person they'd ever met. And I
No
was like,
shit.
what?
No, I'm not.
I was like, no, you're not.
It's the first
No.
you
There's
knew.
no way
The
in
first
hell.
you
Yeah.
know of, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we got to have a
And
conversation about that. And it's like, and actually, Gary was saying this too on later. He was like, if you think you don't know any trans people, you're wrong.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because of that first path that people take. Once they're able to pass past a certain extent, they kind of vanish.
Well, we could talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the history of like trans people and people's goals and stuff,
Sure.
and how that's kind of like shifted a little bit. I don't know how familiar y'all are with this.
I would love to learn because I am horribly, horribly ill versed in this kind of thing.
I know a little bit, but I'm sure there's people out there who will be like, oh, you're wrong. So if you're wrong, leave a comment and review, like and subscribe.
Yes.
We need a trans historian on here.
Yes,
So
that would be lovely. But I know that earlier on, when transgender people were still using the term transsexual to describe themselves, it was very much the goal to blend in with society. The idea was that you didn't want anybody to know, like going stealth was always the ultimate goal because that was the kind of culture that people lived in.
Mhm.
So if you tried to pretend like, hey, there wasn't room for gender nonconforming people.
Mhm.
There was room for people who were male and there was room for people who were female. If you were trans, you needed to pick one or the other.
Mhm.
There's a little bit more flexibility in that now because I think people have realized, like, male and female are really just arbitrary distinctions that are cultural, byproducts of whatever culture you're in at the time, cultural strong constructs, as we say.
Mhm.
But I think that kind of like idea and goal, like you have to pass to be trans, you have to want to transition, you have to do it medically, like that medicalist ideas. And you see that still with a lot of our trans elders, like Buck Angel, who is kind of says some transphobic things sometimes, and doesn't have room in his worldview for people who might be experiencing gender in a different way from him. So I think that having more visibility and having like we're definitely more visible today. More people know about trans people. If you talk to somebody in the 80s or 90s and ask them if you know what a trans person is, they might think transvestite.
What in the hell?
What the hell is that? And but now, being such a hot button topic, political issue now, there's so many more people who are visible with it too. And now the goal isn't so much to pass, or the goal isn't so much to go stealth. The goal is to just be able to live as who you are and to live authentically. And I think that honestly is a more noble goal. And if your goal is to, you know, go stealth, then more power to you. If your goal is to be an advocate, then more power to you. Thinking of us three doing this podcast, there's probably no way that I'll be able to not be known as a trans person as long as I'm doing this.
Just
And I'm okay
because
with that.
you've got the notoriety of having a podcast run by 3 trans women.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, while that is, I agree with you on the nobility thing. I agree with you in that the overall goal of this, and I hate to call it a movement because that's the word that they use when they're trying to fuck us over and make us scapegoats, but the overall goal of this community is to normalize the fact that you can live in gender nonconformity and still be in a stable place.
Mhm.
That kind of outlook is accepted in more liberal, queer, densely populated cities. I have to say, though, that that kind of thing does not fly everywhere.
No.
And I want to talk a little bit about, if you'll let me here. You mentioned that transsexual as an outdated term and has been replaced with transgender in a lot of cases. There is a movement, at least among the trans women I know down here, to bring back and sort of reclaim the term transsexual to refer specifically to trans people who are transitioning visibly and touch that fire of being judged constantly every single day and have no choice but to go through that fire. Because I guess the justification for that is that there is a lot of diluting of the word trans when you use it to refer to people who have just thought about gender a little bit and then
Or people
don't
who are
really do
non-binary,
anything.
but
They
change
don't
their
do
opinion.
anything to be visibly trans or visibly non-binary. And again, that should not be a prerequisite, and it is not a prerequisite. But the experience of transitioning trans people, visible transitioning trans people, is very, very different and a lot more difficult than those who are either in the closet or are, consider themselves quote unquote trans, but don't do anything to actually experience what that's like.
Can I drop a couple of cents in the
Please.
bucket?
Of course.
Mhm.
Okay. I definitely hear that and I feel that. And it's something that I'm seeing in my area too. Not only my area of the internet, but when I actually do go out into the world, the real world, in Washington, there's a little bit of that happening too. And I feel like that the, at least part of my encounters with reclaiming that term and starting to reuse that term has been on the grounds of, well, we're starting to be judged by our quote unquote biological sex. And okay, people are starting, it's not enough to say, okay, gender is a construct for some people, because then you've got the other folks on the other side saying, well, you can't change your sex. I'm like, motherfucker, watch me.
Hell
And
yeah.
so in that regard, I am a huge supporter of that. I think both terms are expressive in their own ways. I think both terms can be inclusive if we do it right, and if we're if the community is open to it. But yeah, I can definitely see that being something in less progressive areas that is a trial by fire of having to walk the walk before you've visibly accomplished your goals of physical and medical transition.
I've gone through
Yeah,
that. It sucks.
it sucks.
Still
Sucks.
sucks sometimes.
Still sucks.
That's
I
what differentiates true scum people from too cute people.
true scum.
Mhm.
When I'm at work, I
Can you define
transitioned
true
very.
scum and too cute real quick
Oh,
for
okay.
those people who might know what those terms are?
Sure. And this is just based on my rudimentary knowledge from being on Reddit at improper hours of the day. True scum refers to those who would take more of a transmedicalist standpoint. They say in order to be considered trans, you do have to have touched the fire. And by the fire, I mean the fire of being visibly trans and going through that physical transition, being perceived as something.
Doing surgery.
Yes, you be perceived as something outside of the binary and see what that feels like. If you believe that that is a requirement for calling oneself trans, whether it's transgender or transsexual, I would say that that would be a more true scum standpoint. I'm not sure if the term true scum is entirely fair just because it's got the word scum in it. I mean, don't call people scum no matter who they are unless they're Nazis. And then too cute, which is the polar opposite, I think was it's kind of got that same nomenclature shittiness. Too cute, the too cute standpoint would be like completely up to self-identification. If you believe that gender is whatever you're assigned is not necessarily what you identify with, then just the act of questioning that is enough to make one be able to consider oneself trans. That's true scum versus too cute. We can call it transmedicalist versus not transmedicalist.
Trans-inclusive, maybe.
Trans-inclusive, yeah. Trans-exclusive. This is a
Trans-
trans-exclusive offer.
Transclusive. Ooh, tell me more.
Ooh.
I'm definitely more towards the too cute side of things, but that's mainly because I like the idea of the population of trans people just keeping on going up. And the more people who consider themselves trans, the more likely they'll be to fight for trans rights.
Mm-hmm.
And the more likely that their friends will be. And so from
Mhm.
my perspective, I'm like, yeah, let's just call everybody trans. But I also can definitely recognize that the experience of being a trans person and being visibly trans and like not feeling good about it and the dysphoria that you have internally from that, and then the external dysphoria you have from how badly you get treated or harassed, it's like those are very different experiences.
Very, very different
Very
experiences.
different. It's a very valid experience to have. And I think that a lot of the like true scum to me, it feels like a little bit of, hey, please recognize the struggles that I've had to go through. Please see this. I want to be seen in this way.
Well, it's not just, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that it's not just recognize the struggles that I have to go through,
Exactly.
but also make efforts to remedy the struggles. The struggles are not pronouns in bathrooms. The struggles are access to hormones, access to therapy, whether it's mental health or physical hormone therapy. It's
Struggles are having a sense of safety, going to like the
safety.
grocery store.
Yes. And the idea is that when you dilute the the experience of being trans down to just feeling like you're trans, a lot of these legitimate struggles get pushed to the wayside. A lot of these like actual safety struggles that, when you talk about a trans genocide, this is what you're actually referring to. You're talking about taking away our access to hormones, which is essentially our access to any kind of quality of life. When you dilute that down to being as important as, I don't know, someone at the gas station calling you sir instead of ma'am, like, yeah, that sucks, but that's not immediately going to kill you, you know? That's what the problem is, I think, with being extremely, extremely inclusive. You have to be very careful with what you consider important issues.
Yeah, those. I guess the problem with coming up with those ideas as necessarily like opposing things is
And they're not opposing,
just
really.
maybe opposing isn't quite right, but sorry, my dog is upset about something. The problem with that can be of just like when you start excluding people from being trans that feel like they're trans. Like, yes, the experiences may be different, but experiences can still be different while under the same umbrella of something.
And you're right.
And there's always the worry of ostracizing people from that and not feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not trans enough to be
Right.
included. And there's a lot of worry in that. And
Because
like
that's a
people are
thing that
able to
like
do and
almost
express the things themselves, but I don't know.
No, you are
It's
totally
a
right
very
about
difficult
that.
line to walk.
Especially when you're just starting. Sorry, go ahead, Marcia.
yeah, that's what I was going to say to add on to that. When you're just starting, that's like the imposter syndrome that you get, and you're
Massive.
always like, am I really trans? As you're like reaching for your medicine,
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I had
Right.
that thought. I was like, am I really trans or just faking it? As I putting the little in my
100%.
mouth, right?
Absolutely.
I was like, this is a really silly thing to be worried about. But like that, and at that point, I could laugh about it because it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be like having this as a priority every single day
Sure.
if I wasn't.
Sure.
But I know, like, especially for younger people, it can be really, really scary.
And you are
Really-
absolutely right.
Yeah. And so I feel like if I'm to err, I would rather err on being a little bit more inclusive than I need to be. That's me
Yes.
personally.
Yes.
I can see that. And that is definitely that is an internal fight that I have a lot too. I think
And
back.
also,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm so sorry. I was interrupting. I apologize. Continue.
I was just thinking that when I think back to my early days of transition, looking for any small amount of acceptance, looking for any sign that I was actually trans and not just crazy, those little tiny bits of acceptance that I saw all over the internet were the entire world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's continually important in the sense that like we don't want to frame our transness around the negative parts. We aren't trans because of the negative things that we experience. Those are just the shitty parts of society and the shitty things we have to deal with, but that's not what makes us trans. That's not the separation, or at least that's not what I want the separation to be. I'm not trans because I came out in the South and was called an abomination and all of these things. Like that's not what made me that.
That certainly
I am
helps
because
solidify
I am.
your idea that you're trans, for
yeah.
sure. Getting called an abomination is definitely one of my favorite parts of the trans experience.
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yes.
Not the only part, though. Not the most important part.
No.
but it's up there.
Yeah.
I think that the sorry, I'm distracted because I don't know where River went, and I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, hi. Oh, you're down there. Okay, sorry.
I sat down because I had surgery back in February, and
Oh yeah.
I get waves of exhaustion. I had bottom surgery, and I'm really tired.
How
Also, I'm
is
having a
that
little bit of an
going?
autistic shutdown right now. So
Do you have a standing desk otherwise?
this is my standing desk from my recording studio, and
Cool.
my bed's right behind me as I'm sitting on my bed. But I'm also kind of feeling a little
Oh hell
wonky
yeah.
in the brain. So
I hear ya. Do you do
yeah,
you? That is all good.
You do you.
Surgery. That's a thing.
Surgery.
I've recently been thinking a little bit about that.
Oh, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. When I started transitioning, I thought to myself, I'll never want any surgeries. I don't need a surgery in order to be trans. And it's true. You don't need surgeries in order to be trans. But then I don't know. I wonder if that will change. I often wonder if that will change. And I'm interested in hearing y'all's experiences with this.
sure. Do you want to hear any of mine?
Yes.
Well, I would, but I know that you're shutting down a little bit and I don't want to exacerbate that.
It's fine. When there's something for me to talk about, I'm happy to talk about it.
By all means, I would love to hear more about the experience. Was this
Can we
something
pause
that you
for
always
like
knew
3
that you would
minutes
want?
so I can run to the bathroom?
You go
Please,
through.
yes, Marcia.
Thank you. Oh,
Okay, now
Well,
we can
Marcy's
talk
doing that.
about. Finally, we can talk about actual stuff.
Right. While Marcy's doing that, I need to regulate really quick.
Go for it,
I'll be right back.
please, by all
Mhm.
means. So Celeste,
How's it going?
good. You come here often?
Occasionally.
Yes. Heck
I'm
yeah.
in the middle of. My roommates are in the middle of moving out, so there's just disaster
Oh.
around me. I'm kind of in like a space above the stairs.
Oh,
It's
cool.
not a room. It looks like a room. It's not a room.
But this is just a space above the stairs.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So soon I'll be in a bedroom for all of this.
Cool.
But I'm in limbo right now.
In the meantime, you're in limbo. Are you going
Yeah.
to be the only person in your house? Do you have all the roommates moving
No,
out? Or what?
I live with my wife also.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So-
and we're not filling other roommate space, so it'll just be the two of us for
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it'll be nice.
Have you done that before?
Oh yeah. We lived together for about 3 years in Tennessee. We had our own house.
Okay.
And then we moved up here to Vermont where we're at now.
Ooh,
So,
Vermont.
yeah. I'm just outside of Burlington, so
Heck yes. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about Vermont lately. There was
I adore this place so much.
what made you
I'm
go
never
to
leaving.
Burlington? Why Vermont?
Well, we wanted out of the South because, the South.
I'm right there. I hear you.
My wife is a school teacher, and
Oh.
she
I have
started
one line of
having
thought.
issues from her principal about needing to maybe not express that she has a wife at home now,
Oh,
and
fuck
like
that.
show pictures of me, and there was
Yo.
complications. So we're like, we need to get the fuck out of there.
Absolutely.
So
That's Garbo. I hate
found
that.
a good job in Burlington, and so we came up here.
That's
and
so
this
cool.
place is queer as fuck, and I love it.
Oh, honestly, kind of inspiring. My
Yeah,
girlfriend and I are trying to kind of do the same thing.
Burlington's great.
Cool. I'm gonna let her know. Burlington and Rochester are both on the list right now.
Yeah.
Marcia, what were you saying? Yeah,
I
please.
had something I was meaning to say, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with how when people have been transing for a while, they tend to either fade into the woodwork or become advocates.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason for that is because while the trans experience is like very specifically something like you can trauma bond over really easily,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I think that when you go meet a trans person, you're just really meeting another person. So whether or not you connect with them as a person is just completely random. You're not going to be able to connect with them just because they're trans.
You're
That
right.
might give you something interesting to talk about at the start,
You're
but
right.
the trans community isn't really like it's a community right now because we're all, oppressed, basically.
Sure.
We're oppressed in this society that we live in. If we lived in a better world, in a world that was more, or in a culture where there was space for that,
Yeah.
I don't think that there would be as much of a need for things like, um, you know, trans women picnic parties or
Picnics, right. You're
like
absolutely right about that.
gay baseball that we do. We call it gay baseball, but it's probably 80% trans people who show up,
Oh,
you know,
cool.
which is
It's
really fun.
trans ball.
It's trans
That's kind
ball.
of cool. But you're totally right about that. I noticed with my little group of trans women who I met at this picnic, there were probably I don't know, 30 or 40 of us that all showed up to the first couple ones in those first couple of weeks. And like we all jumped into this Instagram thing. We all jumped into a Discord at some point as well. And eventually the whole thing just fell apart because we are all extremely different people who trauma bonded at the very beginning over the fact that we're all trans. And then, those differences start showing up and you start realizing like, oh, I don't necessarily like these people or get along with these people just because I'm trans. We're all extremely different people. And, that also made a lot of them, now that I think about it, kind of disappear from social media altogether.
Yeah.
Which is, I get it. I completely relate to that sometimes. But then, Celeste, like you were saying, like you want to be the person who you needed early on in the experience, early on in transition. You want to be that for other people. So you always end up going back to social media and going back to the inspiring posts and things like that. And you go back to making a podcast by trans people for trans people. And like that kind of thing is, I don't know, maybe it just becomes a cycle that keeps on happening over and over and over again until you get sick of it and disappear.
Trans people is one thing, but I've also noticed that it's a lot easier for me to just bond normally with like queer people and especially other lesbians. Like, it's just like really, there seems to be more of an overlap there than necessarily
Yeah.
from the trans experience,
Yeah,
which is
I
interesting.
understand
Because,
that.
like, I know some like really straight trans girls who
Yeah.
are
Mhm.
really
Super straight.
super straight.
Super straight.
And there's just kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't really relate with
There's
you,
a lot
girl.
of disconnect.
Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'm glad
I
you
hear
like
that
that, but
too.
like, okay,
Yes.
you do you,
Yeah.
boo.
And like, they're totally valid as well, but it's if you can't relate to it, those differences become extremely clear extremely quickly.
Yeah. And it's not like
Sure.
we have to get along with everybody. We can support
Mm-mm.
everybody without having to be like buddy buddy with everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Did y'all ever watch Veneno on HBO?
The what?
Wow. Okay, so there's this show that came out somewhat recently, and now they're doing a sequel to it called Vestida en Azul, I think.
Okay.
But Veneno was the name of the original show. It was a series on HBO that followed Cristina Ortiz, who was a trans woman in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Spain. She was like one of the very, very first international trans icons. And I'm pretty sure she passed away, which is terribly tragic. But that whole series called Veneno shows the story of her transition and her life as a TV icon, like one of the very first international trans icons. I can't remember what got me on that in the first place, but that is something that all of us in our little group down here in Atlanta bonded over. We would get together every week and watch the latest episode of Veneno on HBO. So highly recommended, please. It's a beautiful, beautiful show. It blew my mind. I still haven't finished it, and I need to.
I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Please do, Veneno.